Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Vianne Timmons, and I am your president. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers. I want to acknowledge the lands in which Memorial University's campuses are situated. They are the traditional territories of diverse Indigenous groups, and we acknowledge with respect the histories and cultures of the Beothuk, the Mi'kmaq, the Innu, the Inuit of this province. And this acknowledgement is important for us always to say. So, I have speaking notes here, but I'm going to put them aside. I want to just talk to you for a minute. I'm new here at Memorial. Well, I want to keep that new for as long as I can, but it's been 9 months, and I know how the pandemic has affected me. And I want to share that with you a little bit and then tell you why I wanted to bring you together to have a conversation. So I'm a mother of 4 children, a grandmother, a daughter. I come from a family of strong women, but my grandmother had to leave school in grade 4, and that was in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia in Canada, to become a housekeeper. My mom didn't have an opportunity when she left high school to go to university, but she raised 6 kids and sent us all to university. And I stand on my grandmother and my mother's shoulders, and that's really important for me to acknowledge, especially in a forum with women. So the pandemic was interesting for me because I moved across the country, but then I had to move 2 of my daughters with me. I have a daughter with a unique learning needs. She has fetal alcohol syndrome, and she has significant health challenges. So she moved with us. And then my younger daughter had come home from Spain for a job in Vancouver, and it of course got canceled with the pandemic, and so she had to move here to Newfoundland with me to be here and start job hunting all over again. And she ended up getting a job in Vancouver and moving. But I want to share with you how, as a woman, the pandemic has affected me. So I have an 87-year-old mother who lives in Nova Scotia by herself, independently, and was going to travel to visit some of my brothers and sisters for Christmas, but they live outside the Atlantic bubble, so she was unable to. So she was going to come here in Newfoundland. So it will be the first time in her 87 years she will spend Christmas alone. And I had a little cry about that. I feel I'm the oldest girl. I feel very responsible for my mother. I'm the main person who kind of makes sure she's okay. I bought the home she lives in. I look after her needs. I have a 17-year-old granddaughter. It'll be a year this Christmas. I haven't seen her. I have 2 teenage grandchildren. That was a year in October since I last saw them. And 2 of my 4 children, it'll be over a year since I've seen them. And yet, I know that people have it so much harder, who have a lot of demands on them, a lot of challenges. And as women in particular, I see the difference with my partner, how I grieve and hurt because I can't see my children, and how for him, he sees the end of the pandemic and he doesn't react the same way. So I know for many of us women, this is a very, very challenging time. Working from home with young children, trying to manage that and the household and the whole pivot that we've all had to do. I don't have answers for any of you today, but I really wanted to listen. I wanted to tell you that I know it's hard for women. I know it's harder often for women than men during something like this, a pandemic. They call it a shadow pandemic, the impact on women. And so this forum is for you to talk and share and listen also, and hopefully that we can mutually support each other. And I want to say that I hope that you don't get frustrated because there's so many online listening. I just really wanted to reach out to you, to tell you I'm here, to tell you as a woman, I know it's tough. So I think we'll begin at that, and I will turn this over. I'm going to now go to my notes to see. I'm turning it over to Megan, our moderator, who is going to host this. And I hope that you will participate, but also recognize there's a lot of us online right now, 168. And when we chat with each other, if we can be concise and tight in our comments. Megan.
Thank you, Dr. Timmons. I work in the Division of Marketing and Communications as Associate Director, and my preferred pronouns are she and her. And I'm really happy to be here today to moderate this event. I do have a few quick notes before we get started. You'll see the Q&A function on your screen. So if you want to share a question or a comment, you can do so using that, and I will relay it to the president. The important thing to keep in mind there is there's a character limit of only 250 characters, so you will have to be really concise with what you're saying. But we are going to be trying something new today. In addition to submitting questions using that function, you could also use it to let me know that you'd like to speak directly to the president. And then Darcy will help us. He will change your status from audience member to presenter so that we'll be able to see you and hear you. Obviously, you'll need to have your audio and video turned on. So please do introduce yourself, your preferred pronouns, and your connection to Memorial, and then you can just say what's on your mind. Although, as Dr. Timmons said, we just want to hear from as many folks today as we can. So if you do come on screen, please try to keep your remarks brief. And after about 2 minutes, I will just give a little hand signal just to let you know about where you are in the timeline and ask you to try to keep it brief. And of course, I probably don't have to say this, but I'm going to anyway. If you do come on screen, please remember to respect the respectful workplace policy or the student code of conduct. So no profanity or nudity or harassment or anything along those lines. And one last thing, I've moderated a few of these now, and what I see is at the very last minute, a whole flurry of questions and comments come through, and we just don't have time to get to them. So if there is something on your mind, please put it in the chat box early so that we can try to get to you and get to as many folks as we can. So I did have 2 questions that came in by email, so we're going to start there. One person wrote in to say, this pandemic has highlighted to me just how stressful it is working outside of the home while raising a family. Although the adjustment to work from home was challenging and I miss many aspects of working in my office, the work from home initiative has allowed me to focus more time on my family. I no longer have to commute to and from work, and I get an hour lunch break at home each day. For me, this extra time allows for 2 extra hours in my home each day. I'm home when my school-age children gets off the school bus, something I never thought would be possible. The results are that I'm less stressed and I have become a better mother and wife, and equally important, I now have time for self-care. I believe there's an opportunity here for greater support the Memorial staff by allowing for greater flexibility in work scheduling and setting. I understand there's a pilot program in the works to allow some staff to remain in a work from home environment, but I'd like to know how once things return to normal, how can Memorial support its staff to balance work and family without a full work from home situation?
Well, that's a great question, and I know that we have a committee now struck looking at work from home pilots and how we can implement them for different groups. Right now, it's looking at whether full working from home and or working on campus. It's not looking at a hybrid, partially working from home, but that will be the next thing we look at tackling. And, it's important, in particular for women, that flexible work environments often are beneficial in terms of work-life balance, and we recognize that. But we haven't got anything formalized yet, but we will have a discussion about that at the senior level.
Okay, and the next question I have is from an employee who says that she's feeling pretty lost these days. She wrote in to say that while the COVID remote work situation isn't ideal, my leadership team and colleagues are phenomenal. I'm very thankful for the working situation I'm in, considering what's happening in the world. However, she's entering into the sandwich generation, does not have kids, so aging parents, step parents, etc. Think I have all the time in the world to do things for them, especially now that I work from home. So that could be running errands or being asked to babysit or to take over planning a 20-guest Christmas family dinner. So mostly and most difficult, she says, they rely on her for emotional support for very difficult topics that she's yet to even live through herself. She doesn't have free time. She works hard and has multiple other responsibilities. Essentially, she's feeling like she's failing everyone and she doesn't have enough in her cup to pour from. And she feels like she's not taken seriously when she says she doesn't have time to do something. So is there anything that you could suggest to her, Dr. Timmons, or that you would recommend someone in that situation do?
Well, this is many people are feeling that lost, and I think we have employment assistance programs, and I think reach out to your supervisor, your head, to see, you let them know. I don't have an answer to this except that by seeking out and saying you need help is a sign of real strength. And I encourage all of the women out there who need support and help, reach out. We have built supports around you to hold you up at times and lift you up. Take advantage of them. They're yours.
And what I'm going to do is I will share those links in the Q&A so that you folks will be able to see links to be able to find support through either student wellness or through the employee assistance program. And now we have Vashti Campbell, who would like to speak briefly regarding the experience of trans and non-binary folks. So Darcy, if you could get Vashti on screen, we'll try this new thing.
Hi, Vashti. I see your name.
I think maybe now you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, but I don't think you can see me. That's all right.
No.
Hello, it's wonderful to see you. And welcome back to Memorial. I will briefly say it's a pleasure to have had the opportunity to meet you at the Senior Women's Academic Awards in the past. And I'm very happy to have you here. I'm also really
Thank you, Vashti.
Thanks. I'm also really pleased to have you and our moderator, Megan, introduce yourselves with your pronouns. I think that that's an important part of creating a culture where gender diversity is respected and where there's open space for that. I haven't been on campus this year. I've actually been on a leave of absence, but I'm returning. And one of my concerns that I've been hearing a lot about from student and faculty colleagues both, and that is my concern as well, is that the pandemic has been particularly isolating, I think, for a lot of trans and non-binary folks. And particularly when we're thinking about students, for a lot of folks who either have lived away from home and been able to explore their identity in the context of being in the great metropolis of St. John's, but also who are maybe feeling more isolated, are feeling more isolated, not being able to access community that they connect to on campus. And obviously I recognize the importance of not having gatherings on campus. But historically, this province has been a really challenging place to be able to be out as trans or non-binary. And so I'm interested in, and I don't know that you can speak to this immediately today, but in what spaces are being cultivated or considered around this, both to support students, but also staff and faculty in the university around fostering community and conversation and a sense of safety and connectedness for folks in our communities who are trans and non-binary while we're not able to gather together.
So Vashti, I am not aware of anything specific on that, but I am going to ask some questions and look into it. I mean, with the virtually, we can provide virtual communities like we are today for conversations, but we're also looking at bringing some gatherings to campus in 2021 in the winter term, though limited and all totally following social distancing and public safety measures. But I know for trans women, these situations like this and the prejudice and the violence they feel often is ignored and not recognized. And you've given me something to pursue, and I will look into this. So thank you, Vashti.
I appreciate that very much. And if I can add, because you talk about violence in trans women, which is a significant reality, I know the St. John Status of Women Center has been noticing an uptick in domestic violence, and I think that's particularly heightened for trans women and trans community.
Absolutely.
I had the opportunity to participate at Memorial in the development of the trans resources that were created online for students transitioning. And I know we're looking at staff and faculty resources as well. So I know there are some great contacts on campus currently to be able to help facilitate that work. And if there is something that can be done around creating community, you know, when I'm back on campus in January, I'm happy, well, virtually on campus, I'm happy to reconnect with those groups as well to help support that process. But I appreciate you hearing it and taking it into consideration.
And Vashti, when you're back on campus in January, how about you and I have a chat?
I would love that. That would be great. Thank you.
Perfect. Great.
All right, thank you, Vashti. Darcy, if you can change Vashti's status. And I'm just going to share a comment that came through kind of related to the second question that I asked. Francesca Boschetti said that she's a single woman with no children, but the pandemic has been very hard on her. She said, my family is abroad. I've not seen them for a year. Many of us at Memorial are feeling the same. Just wanted to mention that even those of us with no children are struggling.
Yeah, I know, Francesca, and it is tough. I mentioned my mother, right, and the challenge and the anxiety I feel knowing she's alone over this Christmas holiday. So for all of us, it's tough. I recognize that.
Darcy, I'm going to ask you to bring Allison Byrne on screen for us. Allison wants to talk about the differences in hours worked by male versus female faculty members with children.
Hi, Allison.
Hello?
Hi,
Hi.
we can hear you but can't see you.
That's okay. I'll keep it that way. So my name is Allison Byrne. I'm an assistant professor in the Faculty of Business. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I genuinely appreciate that there is a format to at least discuss some of these issues and maybe put some steps in place towards sustainable solutions. And so this is a question that I have about the basically the ability to compare, I guess, male and female faculty, especially with those of us with children. And there's a recent data that came out from a leading scholar in the work family domain that found that women faculty with children at home spend approximately 13 hours more hours a week on child faculty with children at home. And this data was collected in North American universities across all disciplines, suggesting that it is generalizable to our faculty here. Now, I'm aware that this is likely a societal and an industry issue, but is there anything at the institutional level, especially when we think about P&T awards, chair positions, grants, et cetera, that could be done to recognize the additional hours that male faculty with children are likely able to dedicate to research, teaching, and services compared to women? And I guess that there's no straightforward solution, but I'm wondering if there could be real changes made within Memorial University that could address these differences.
So, Alison, I know during the pandemic, I've had a number of discussions with our provost around this. And I know that in promotion tenure during the pandemic time, they're hoping to recognize, they're intending to recognize the challenges our women faculty face. Ongoing, I think what you've said is so important and so true. And so we'll see if this is one of the things that maybe we can extend out. I will chat with the provost more about that. Thank you, Allison. And it is absolutely happening on our campus. So when you said it can be generalized to our campus, I know it can be generalized here. But, as a faculty member with young children, I know the challenges that I faced trying to get my career off the ground, to get tenure and promotion and raise 4 children.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
There's a similar comment here from Christina Doonan, or in the same vein. She says studies on gender and teaching in universities show that students expect additional nurturing from women professors. During this time when there are so many additional expectations, both at work and at home, students are sometimes expressing anger and resentment against professors who do not or cannot perform the additional work required by these gendered scripts. Would the university consider asking students to be flexible and understanding with their professors at this time?
Absolutely, we can. I've asked you to be understanding and empathetic and flexible with your students. I can put that message out to our students. Thank you for that.
Okay, I'm now going to ask Darcy if he can bring Ann Doward on screen with a comment.
Hi, Ann. I can see your name again. Can't see you. There you are. Hi.
Yeah, they don't release the buttons until you get called. Anyway, thank you, Dr. Timmons, for hosting this event. I'm already excited and engaged and really appreciate all the comments and questions people have had. I'm in my early 50s. I have a couple university-age children. I feel like I have energy to give empathy to the students right now, and I'm currently in an administrative position doing just that. So my career is allowing me to do that, but I really appreciate the comments of the other faculty who really need to, conserve their energy in some ways during this time. But I also find it quite interesting based on my experience, and I appreciate your history, Dr. Timmons, that I've already probably in my 4th equivalent pandemic, I've already had to dig deep for energy and resourcefulness for different events that are family that affected me personally, and fight that fight, I guess, at the table to say, you have to make hard decisions when you're looking after family, and if they're in a critical situation, that's where your energy is going to be. But you have to bring that to the table and make people recognize that spending care on your family is incredibly important, and that sometimes does have career impact. It did have career impact for me, but I decided to redefine myself and say, well, that's what I had to do at that time. So here's where I am now, and I found joy in a new direction that didn't exactly match what might be called a traditional academic trajectory. And I just had to accept that, including with some counseling, to be honest. I mean, to say, oh, things have changed. This is not easy, but you did what you felt was right. So it's okay. It's okay to be where you are.
So, and it's a sign of strength to reach out for counseling. One of the things that I've done over the years that has helped me is I've actually talked to my male colleagues and I've asked them to be allies. And I've worked with them. And when I've said to them, when I say I feel gender discrimination or that more challenges as a woman, I need you to say to me, how can I support and help you? Right? Because I've had male colleagues say, "Oh, you're so sensitive," or you're overreacting. All of those typical words that they lay on us as women. But I have found by asking my male colleagues for help, ask them to be allies, and being specific of what I need for support has really helped me over the years. Right? But it is challenging, and it's there all the time.
Yeah.
The discrimination is there all the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. It was nice to see you.
Yeah, so that's a good note. It'll take a minute for you guys to be able to turn on your camera if you're coming on screen. So you'll see that the button, I think, will be grayed out, but if you just give it a second, you'll be able to hit the start video button and we will be able to see you. Next question came in Q&A. Someone said that along with faculty and students, staff, women in particular, are feeling mentally exhausted. Will we be getting some extra reprieve? I know that University of Toronto has added 3 mental health days to staff benefits.
So I know that we delayed the start of classes in acknowledgement of the challenges to our faculty. We have not had a discussion at the senior level about providing any other additional supports at this time, except that we're working on the remote work from home situation. Again, I will bring that discussion. I have been sharing with the senior team what other universities have been doing across the country for context. So thank you for drawing that to my attention from University of Toronto.
And another question coming in, this one is about childcare supports on campus. There's no support right now for children aged under 2, which is very stressful for students, faculty, and staff, but especially women. My question is whether the university will move on this. In the past 10 years, the focus has been on childcare at Grenfell campus, but I wanted to highlight the importance of the under 2 support. I believe and the need and the willingness to pay are present.
Well, thank you for that. I did tour the child care center here on campus, and I asked that question about for infants and whether the support was for them. I'm going to ask it again now. I just did it for information then. I didn't do it in an advocacy way, but you reminded me to do that. Thank you.
And I have a comment here from Susan Curtis. She said that she's a mother of 2 memorial students, and the transition from home has seemed pretty seamless, but it has showed me how work-life balance is so important. Her own health and wellness has come to the forefront, and she appreciates that MUN is moving to the modern era.
Thank you, Susan. Boy, it's hard watching your kids struggle through this pandemic, isn't it? Online learning.
Someone is asking if there's going to be a student-specific forum with Dr. Timmons. I've seen some female students struggling as well, single mothers, international students, and a student-specific event with the president might help better illuminate those challenges.
I had not had any intention of doing that. I decided to do this to see how it went, but depending on your reaction to how this goes, we can look at doing that for sure. I can put that call out.
And folks, I know you have long questions, but when they get broken up over 2, other questions come in between, so it makes it a little bit hard to try and put it together. So if you could try to keep them short, that would be very helpful. So another comment from those, or question, for those of us who are required to be on campus to support students, the demands seem to be growing exponentially. The staff in my area are feeling fatigued, but there is still so much work to get done. Is there anything planned to recognize those on campus?
Nothing specific that we've had the discussion about. I do know, and I see every day because I'm on campus, people who are working hard and are here every day. I think we'll be looking to bring people back in the new year, definitely. But again, an important point for me to bring to my senior team. Thank you.
And someone commented that Grenfell has no daycare, so don't forget the challenges that it creates for them on that campus. Darcy, can you please help us get Julia Janes on screen? She has a comment and question.
Hi, Julia. Boy, you have a lot of comments. I'm trying to read them as we're going along.
It's tricky business trying to read comments and engage on screen. And I thank you for having this forum, first of all. My name is Julia Janes, and I'm a faculty at the School of Social Work. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers. We've heard some really important comments about the caregiving that we do at home and about the gendered scripts that create differential expectations around students and our support to them. But I'm wondering in terms of the effective labor, and that's very gendered in my experience in my department, in terms of supporting the distress that students are feeling and the exponential amount of effective work we're doing to support those students, and how we might recognize that through institutional channels and otherwise.
The extra stress that you're feeling as a faculty, Julia?
No, more, it certainly refracts in terms of stress on faculty themselves, but the amount of extra time, for instance, I spend at least 3 hours after every class supporting students in terms of their distress online, aside of anything course related. And yeah, so that's really what I'm focusing on.
We have really worked hard to get student supports online and available for students. Our Health and Wellness Center is definitely open. I get emails, not to the extent faculty would be, so I don't want you to think I'm making, saying that I know exactly what you're going through, but I'm getting lots of emails from parents and students, so I know it's so tough on them. I don't know how to help, Julia, except to make sure that you're aware of all of the student supports that we have available to direct students to.
Right. Thank you for that. And I am aware, and I share that at the beginning of class and ongoing throughout the course. But it just seems because you're the proximal person, and perhaps because in particularly heightened in social work, which is the and allied health and social care disciplines, they come to us first, right?
And often they expect from women, you know, more empathy, more understanding, you know, and so that adds added stress to you, to all of you, right?
Yes. Yes.
Anyone else have solutions, suggestions? Please, you know, share them online. We're keeping track. We're recording this. I'm taking some notes, but I'll miss lots because I really want to pay attention to what you're saying to me.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Julia.
The next question I have comes from Penny Kennedy, and she's wondering, what can women working on campus with mental illness do to help change stigma culture?
Well, I think I can help with that by just saying that, you know, we need to talk and recognize mental illness and the challenges with it. I have, with permission from my husband, I've been very open. My husband has suffered from very severe depression, and I know the judgments that he experienced and that I experienced going through that with him. We do need to talk about mental illness. It is important to recognize that it's there, to exist, and provide supports around it. So Penny, you're brave to bring that up. I think it's important that we all recognize there's someone in all of our lives that is suffering right now, in particular right now during this pandemic with challenges.
Great. I have a question here, and forgive me as I work through it because it's spread across a few different blocks here. So here are two issues that have been raised a few times that have particular bearing on women at the university. Childcare, we've already discussed that a little bit, but the other is teaching load. And that's a particular issue right now with instructors having to redesign courses. It's Erica Mershrat, I should say, asking this question. Normally, we would receive teaching credit to recognize the added work. That wasn't done this year. How will this forum be a step forward if these fundamental issues haven't been addressed? Can you speak to that, Dr. Timmons?
Yeah, Erica is so good at, Erica, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you always getting engaged, and especially at Senate. I haven't got to meet you yet in person, but I feel like I've met you because of Senate and the conversations we have. I'll be quite candid. We can't afford to recognize any course release or financial benefit, the change, the pivot to online courses, because it's every course that we have on campus, and we are in a challenging fiscal time. So I'm going to be realistic and practical. It's not fair, but it's a reality we live in. So what we've done is try to invest in the supports for you to help you with the teaching online transition through CITL, and we'll continue to do that. But you're right, Erica, it has been added workload, it's been stressful, and every faculty member has had to do it.
Next question I have comes from Sherry Christian. She says, there remains an issue with gender disparity at the faculty level in many departments, including my own. Are there any initiatives at the institutional level to actively address these disparities, for example, targeted searches?
We're doing a targeted search, a cluster search for Indigenous faculty members, and we've had a great response. We have 5 positions. We've had over 30 applications on that. I'm very interested in pay equity and gender equity in faculty and departments, and we have asked all search committees undertake unconscious bias training as part of their commitment to be aware when they go into the searches. So we have more work to do on that, and any additional suggestions and help would be appreciated for sure.
Next question comes from Catherine Gill. She says, this isn't COVID related, but I'm a mother of 3 and a native of Germany. None of my friends overseas who have small children work full time. I wish Memorial would help pave the way for parents in Canada to work part time if they wish. I guess that's more of a comment.
Well, that's a very important comment. Again, something I'm going to bring to the senior team. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, next question. My next question is not directly related to COVID effects, but do we have a gender-based wage gap at Memorial? Is there statistical research about it? And if so, what is your solution?
So I am aware that there are some funds put aside to look at a gender-based wage gap and to do some corrections with that. So I think that's in process.
We have a comment here where someone says Margaret Brown's absolutely encourages the use of EAP. 3 years ago, I had 3 serious family traumas and was overwhelmed. EAPs, phone calls with psychologists regularly, really helped deal with anxiety. I was doubtful about EAP, but not anymore.
Great. I'm so glad it was a positive experience for you. So please take advantage of, to anyone out there who's feeling challenges, take advantage of EAP, please. It's there for you.
It is. It's a great program. Next up, Paula Griffin-Clark says that admin departments have been hit hard by previous budget cutbacks, yet these departments are female dominated, resulting in disproportionate burden on women in the workplace. How can we ensure this pattern is not repeated going forward?
Well, we can't ensure it, but it is really important to recognize it. And you're absolutely right. When I looked at the budget, especially the budget over the last 5 years here in Memorial, there's been a real effort to protect the academic positions. And the min units have really taken big hits. And I'm going to keep monitoring that carefully. And there's a point where you can't cut anymore and in the min areas. So I'm aware of it. I'm watching it and monitoring it, and I'm trying to figure out different ways as we go forward with alternate revenue that we can look at, possibly lifting the tuition freeze and looking at different ways to support our students fiscally. Lots of conversations happening.
Next up, Allison Malcolm says that faculty workload is out of control during the pandemic, but also in general. And if there's any help that could reduce that, it will be much appreciated.
Thank you, Allison. Faculty workload. I know we're having discussions about it, definitely.
So I think this is a comment that Kathy DeJong made, probably related to an earlier conversation. It just takes time for me to be able to scroll through. But she notes that students want to talk to those who are teaching them. Other resources are good, but is there any way to recognize this extra time and effort?
I think we talk about it. We first of all state it that it's that you're carrying a lot heavier load in terms of student consultation. I don't know how to fix it or change it because you're right. Students are going to want to talk to you. They're professors, right? And I do see an end. Hopefully the spring term will be able to bring people back on campus and we'll see things settle a bit. But we do have another term to go through where it's going to be tough on all of us.
Next question came in from Danielle Douglas. She says that many student parents lost the provincial childcare subsidy this fall, over 80% of which are women and have an average of 2 children. This resulted in many facing food insecurity. Is there any interest from Memorial in engaging with the provincial government on the childcare subsidy?
I wasn't aware of that people lost that. Again, I don't have solutions there, but I will. I'll have a chat. Just when I meet with the ministers, I will have that on my list to chat about. I got to do some research on this. I was not aware of that loss. Thank you for that. I feel like I'm not giving you any solutions, but I am listening.
And that's part of what this forum was about, so that we could all talk. And, you know, folks, if you have something that you want to say connected to something someone else said, feel free to add it in or let us know if you want to speak to it, and we'll get you up on screen. And Lisa Moore says that for those of us supporting students' health throughout this pandemic, and see their needs and experiencing the demand of taking care of their health while experiencing the pandemic ourselves, wondering about opportunities to share our experience of this.
That would be great. I wonder, through teaching forums, do you think that might work? A way to share? I think that's what people are really missing, the time to get together, to share strategies, to share experiences, to do that in particular around the teaching challenges that we're facing. Let me try with CITL about the possibility of looking at that.
Great.
Okay.
Next up, can you please consider providing more advance notice when the decision is made to ask employees to return to campus? The notice in November was less than 2 weeks, which left many women scrambling to find after-school care or other childcare solutions.
Yeah, well, that is something we recognize, that we have a lot of work to do around the communications around that whole back to work initiative. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. And Stina Kruger says that she came across an article that women are the shock absorbers during this pandemic. And not only are we absorbing the pandemic shock on ourselves, we also absorb it for our spouses and children and colleagues. And she thought that that was a great term that really captured how she feels. I'm not sure if there's a second half to your question, Stina. That's all that came through on the chat, but I thought it was really worth mentioning because I think that addresses what a lot of us are feeling.
It definitely addresses a lot of what I'm hearing today too from all of you. That is a great term, the shock absorbers. Yeah.
And Jana Rosales has shared a link about that might help people continue the conversation about how to recognize emotional labor in academia. So I'm just going to make that, just going to say it was answered so that you folks can see that link and copy it if it's something of interest to you. Okay, what else? Michelle Miskell says, thank you to all of those who have shared experiences about the labor involved with the emotional support of students. Thank you for validating my work experiences.
You're welcome.
And this person says they're from Saudi Arabia. I was on leave for the last 2 semesters because of travel restrictions. I'm COVID positive for the last 10 days. I'm depressed. What do I do? My youngest son is also positive. And I'm sorry, I'm not really sure the next sentence. It says, how can my leave affect? Do you have anything, I guess, that you'd like to say to someone in that situation, Dr. Timmons?
Oh I'm just saying, I can't imagine how challenging it is. You know, we're seeing how COVID is hitting so many people and their families. That isolation is dramatic. I had to isolate for 3 weeks because I was 1 week isolated and then my children came, and I found it really, really tough. So I can't imagine how others are feeling. Just reach out, make sure that you have someone to talk to, and there are supports there.
And if you scroll up in the Q&A, you should be able to see links to the Student Wellness Center as well as the EAP program. And in there, you'd be able, on those web pages, there are phone numbers and links and people that you can call who might be able to provide more targeted and individual support. Okay. Jennifer Buxton said that you mentioned a hybrid working schedule, but have there been any discussions about allowing for more flexible work schedules in general for staff when things are back to normal?
I hope so. I hope that will be something we will have lots of discussions about. I'm a great believer in flexible work hours, and I implemented them when I was at the University of Regina, though at not at a large level, but definitely in my own office I did. So it's something that I would really encourage leaders on campus to look at. And that in the summer, many people like to work 7, to 4 rather than 8 to 5, and those kind of things. So I will be a strong advocate for that.
Shona Perry Maidment says that many of us are putting in long days, and while we try to take annual leave, it's difficult to do when we already can't keep up, nor do we want to let our teams down. Have there been any discussions on our ability to carry over surplus annual leave into the next year?
Well, there has been lots of discussion of the buildup of annual leave this year, Shona, and I'm worrisome about it. When we get audited, they do take a look at that. It's a liability to have a lot of annual leave built up. But again, this is a very unusual year with unusual circumstances, and I'm making a note of that. Carry over annual leave.
Is MUN carrying out any data collection, such as surveys, about the attitudes towards teaching and service that allow for patterns by gender to be assessed? Similarly, a survey on people's experiences during the pandemic plus also captures gender to permit that analysis to be done.
There have been surveys undertaken with students and faculty and staff, but not, I don't think we've specifically done an analysis around gender. I will again ask if we can do that, because we have lots of surveys that we've undertaken.
Okay.
See if there's a different response from our female students, from our non-binary students, if we can identify that, and the same with our faculty. Thank you, and staff.
Susan Fudge says that listening is very important, and so she says thank you. And Margot Wilson echoes that and says thank you for this forum. And she asks if Memorial has any faculty mentorship groups for women.
I know that some of the women leaders on campus get together periodically to support each other in the senior admin level. My hope is after pandemic is over, I want to do a women leadership forum for the university and community, but I am not aware. There are many women groups in St. John's, in Newfoundland, that have reached out to me, but I don't know specifically. Does anyone else know? If you do, put it on the Q&A, because this is a really good question of women groups on campus. I know there's lots of informal women's groups for sure.
Absolutely. Cynthia Witten says, thank you, Dr. Timmons, for your openness and this opportunity. She's from Glace Bay, Cape Breton originally, so it's lovely to hear we share some roots. She said, I think one possible improvement for staff is allowing managers to manage and giving us more flexibility to help us meet the needs of staff within reason.
Okay, I agree with you. I think you know your units, you know the people that work for you. One of the things I have been talking with our it used to be called SAG, but I changed it to Memorial Leadership Council. I hated that word SAG. Anyway, about their role as leaders and how important it is to give them the authority to lead. So thank you for that.
Angela Avery says she's wondering if there's been any consideration to leadership programs to specifically support women or non-binary administrative staff who want to progress in their careers.
Well, I mentioned the leadership forum, but it's not a program that I want to bring here. In terms of leadership programs, there was a leadership program at Memorial that was cut. And it has been something I've been chatting with some of our senior team about. It wasn't specifically for women, but it was just on overall leadership. And I think it's important that an organization our size does have a leadership program. So it's something I'd like to see brought back or redesigned. And in it, there needs to be something on women in leadership, because that's not a women's issue. That is a societal issue. And our male colleagues also need to understand and support and learn about the challenges women face as leaders. So you've just reinforced me pushing that. Thank you.
I have a comment here from Luann Kelly, who says that she's used the EAP program past and present, and her feedback is that there does need to be longer term solutions through EAP and not just the 3 or 4 approved sessions, because as you start working on an issue, the coverage ends.
Okay, that's very good feedback.
And Daniel Gardner would like to highlight food insecurity and poverty is higher in women in Canada and mostly in homes with children. This is a societal issue that she wants to mention. This can be particularly emotional to witness during this season. She's thinking of everyone and sending hugs.
Well, thank you for that. And that's partly why we did the university food drive. And thank you for everyone who did that. It will now be an annual event here at Memorial. We've decided that today because the response was so positive. So we recognize the challenges around food security. And that was Labrador Institute and also Grenfell campus. All of us did a charity drive. So thank you to all of our campuses.
Next question here looks like it was cut off a little bit, but I'm just going to muddle through. I think this person is saying that the work from home initiative allowed their family to avail of therapy services that we previously couldn't accommodate due to work schedules. The additional time at home has also allowed me to take some time for self-care. I worry a lot about what will happen when we do return to campus.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to. For many of us, some of us will look at different work situations. I see a comment which really resonated with me just about physical health, right? Sitting at our desk so long. And I have found this very tough physically, on my vision and just on my energy. I find by Friday, at the end of the day, I am totally wiped. So I think for all of us, we're going to have to figure out a better way to provide break times in between these online meetings, times to get up and stretch and move. And in the new year, I'm going to ask all of you to focus on that. And I am too. I try not to have any meetings more than an hour, because I really find after an hour, I have got to physically stand up. So I know it's tough on everyone's health right now also.
Penny Blackwood wants to thank you for recognizing these issues. As a woman in a family sandwich with family dealing with mental illness, I can relate to and empathize with many of the issues raised. She also values hearing about issues I knew less about. This has been very helpful.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you.
And Joard is asking if we can make this a regular form in accordance with Dr. Timmons' schedule.
Well, if this is something you want to do regularly, I'm learning a lot from you, and I'm feeling a little frustrated because I want to fix everything, and I know I can't. But if you'll be patient with me and you want to do this again in the new year, we absolutely can. I'm learning a ton.
Vashti Campbell says that regarding supporting those in isolation or quarantine, I know some supervisors of grad students who have had their students who are isolating meet together online. Perhaps this is something CITL could facilitate for students, faculty, or staff groups across campus.
That's a great idea. Thank you for that. I love that you're coming up with suggestions and ideas also. Thank you.
And we'll keep a record of all of the Q&A so that we can see what came up, just in case there's something that we didn't miss. We only have 12 minutes left. So if you did say something in there and it wasn't addressed, it's not going to be forgotten. We will be looking at them. And so Nicole Penny wants to know why it was decided that staff and administrators wouldn't get to take advantage of the later start on January 11th.
Because we need to register students. We need to provide the services. And so we decided that we would go ahead and open the campus on that day, but delay the actual teaching, because faculty have to prepare their courses. And we know that the timeline between this term and the January term is really tight for our faculty. We did have that discussion, but we decided to go with the regular opening date.
Kelly Martin commented on that question about annual leave, saying that excess vacation was not deleted in April 2020.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Okay. My mouse is not cooperating with me. And Vashti says that support for isolation and quarantine, CITL resources could be promoted on my landing page, on D2L, and so on. So yeah, I think that there's other things we can do to make sure that all that information is shared widely.
So I see a question about snow days. There is going to be a note go out about snow days. We won't be canceling classes at during snow days. And if we have meetings, so we'll ask people to do them virtually, but to stay home and stay safe and work from home during snow days. So that will be coming out shortly. It will be a challenge for faculty with children who will be at home. And again, all of our faculty, you have some capacity to have flexibility within your courses, and take that without guilt. Take that without guilt. This term is a tough term. This is not the term to try to make sure we accomplish everything. So I would encourage you to do that.
Megan Forsyth says, it won't come as a surprise that female faculty carry a large burden of service work. While this is acknowledged, it hasn't reduced the service load. Are there any suggestions on how a junior faculty member might navigate this without creating an uncomfortable situation?
I would really encourage a faculty member to speak to his or her head, especially junior faculty, or their head, junior faculty members. I know that, when I was taking all these courses on leadership as a young woman, they always said, put your hand up, volunteer for everything, step up. Now we have the whole lean in movement. And for many women, young women, this is a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation on their shoulders. So I would encourage all of us to be aware of that and to not put undue pressure on our younger faculty, and mentor and support them.
And a question here from Michelle Naftel. I'm a graduate student in an unpaid internship in counseling psychology that also requires me to pay tuition to complete. Why are female-dominated fields of study with internships not paid, but male-dominated fields are paid?
It's a great question. And it's a systematic challenge, right? We see that all the time. You know, our nurses, our teachers all do internships that are unpaid. And now, you know, clinical counseling, it is a real societal issue. It's another example of the challenges that we face as women in terms of women-dominated fields. I don't have an answer. It's just wrong.
We've had a few folks chime in to agree with Shona's comment earlier about how challenging it is to take annual leave right now, and folks who also might need to be available over the Christmas break. So appreciation for the president looking into leave carryover. And someone else noted that it's you know, a lot of folks really thinking about their teams and not wanting to let them down by taking annual leave. Is that something that you can comment on?
Well, I can relate to that. I haven't taken any leave since I've started, and it's been 9 months. And I feel a real obligation to make sure I'm visible, working every day here. So I understand that totally. But again, take care of yourselves and remember that your team understands. Tell them you need to take some leave time. It will help with mental health. And you know what? I'm going to take some leave time in 2021. Just because I'm telling you to, I'm going to have to do it too. So thank you.
Kim Ship lets us know that there is a formal mentoring program via Human Resources. She participated when she joined Memorial and had a great mentor that she still connects with. So maybe we can share that information a little bit more broadly after this. And Lisa Riggs says that she's used to walking to meetings and would typically be spending her lunch hour at the gym, but while working from home, I found it much harder to take any movement or stretch breaks or even a lunch break some days. Are there any tips on how to increase movement throughout the day?
So I shared with you, I'm having those very same challenges. If I can walk to work, I try to walk to work and walk home because I really need that physical movement. I think the thing, if we can all try to keep online meetings to an hour and try to get a little break in between, even 5 minutes makes a big difference. So, you know, today I was on a call with AAU, the Atlantic Association of University Presidents. Before this forum, I sent them a note 5 minutes early and say, I have another meeting in 5 minutes. I'm going to sign off, just so I could go to the washroom. So I really needed to do that. But we need to take those times and recognize this is tough, meeting after meeting after meeting. We have to build in a little bit of time.
What I've seen some people do is start scheduling meetings for 50 minutes as opposed to 60, since we're not walking, you know, from meeting space to our office. So that's something I think that folks should try to do.
Megan, that's I'm going to make a note of that. 15-minute meetings. I will ask my office to do that.
Sherry Menteka, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, but she said that regarding institutional support, the math department has held weekly virtual coffee hours organized by the teaching staff, and that has been extraordinarily helpful in dealing specifically with teaching technical hiccups.
That's a great idea. Great.
Okay, so Susan Fudge says that she has supports for a lot of tasks that automatically go to her at home and outside work. Shock absorbers is so true. She's currently into her 3rd extension of a temporary assignment with managerial tasks added to her existing job role. And she's now organizing a virtual holiday event for students and staff if it is needed. I think that part of that question got cut off, but yeah, sorry, I'm not seeing the rest of that question. Sorry, I'm going to move on to Courtney, but if you sent that in, if you could keep it to 250 characters or less, we'll be able to try to get back to it. We have 5 minutes left to go. Courtney Clark says, Dr. Timmons, thank you so much. I appreciate your commitment to us, and I thank you for answering my question that I sent in advance. Your leadership and the leadership from my department are making this time a lot easier.
So I think probably, Megan, one more, and then I'll maybe make some closing comments, if that's okay.
Yep, I'm just going to share that employee and student resources are also available in the MunSafe app. So if you haven't downloaded that for your smartphone, you should do so. And there is more in there than just notification of campus emergencies. So it's worth taking the time to see the resources that are in there. I'm looking for questions, but I'm getting more comments. We used to have a faculty and staff club at Memorial. It was closed some time ago. Perhaps a dedicated physical space that enables conversations and connections could help faculty and staff reintegrate in the new normal when we return to campus.
So that's a great suggestion. how about when we return to campus, I provide coffee and just like maybe a few snacks, maybe once a month, and we just meet somewhere and we just have informal conversation and gathering. And I can move around to different campuses and do that. It will be really good for me too, also to get to meet more of you, because I've gone the 9 months without being able to do that. If you like that idea, just send me a little note. Coffee and conversation. That's what we'll call it. Coffee and conversation.
I'm just going to share one last comment that came in, and then I'll hand it back over to you. But some folks, 2 comments, because I really want to get this one out from Amy, from someone who said that they wanted to thank Dr. Timmons. Not only does she talk the talk, she walks the walk. It's encouraging and inspiring. She's a leader who is relatable and is appreciated. And Catherine Barrett says that she keeps lightweights by her desk, and when she participates in forums that don't require me to be on video, I try to do a little bit of exercise. Likewise, I do stretches while waiting for the kettle to boil. So trying to build in little minutes of fitness, I think, is a great idea.
Well, I'm going to bring light weights to the office now. I will show you. I brought my slippers because I was finding I needed, being here in the office all the time, I needed to get more comfortable. And so I brought my slippers. So I'm bringing light weights in to do that very thing. So I want to thank all of you. I'm actually found this quite emotional, so I'm hoping I don't get a bit teary-eyed. Emotional because I know that so many of you are facing such challenges that we don't have solutions for and we don't have answers for. And by bringing it to our attention, to my attention, is really important, but I do have a sense of frustration that I can't fix it. I can't fix it. But isn't that the way it's been for women forever, trying to fix the societal challenges that we face, and seeing that they continue for our younger faculty, our younger staff, our students, I find often heartbreaking. You've asked me if I would do it again. Let me know if you think it worked and we can do it again. I don't want to leave you frustrated thinking, well, I told her this and she didn't do anything about it. I am going to follow up with what I can, and I will have conversations going. I'm still learning so much about our processes and procedures and our challenges and barriers to try to implement things, but I'll keep working on it. I want to tell you that as a woman, I need you, your support. I need, and I know you need mine, and we'll try to make that reciprocal and work together as we go forward. I always feel guilty, and I will say this to the young women on the call. I feel that my generation has let you down because you're still facing so much gender inequality, inequity. I thought in the 1990s we had broken that glass ceiling. I thought we had changed it for you, and I find I'm frustrated that we haven't. And so often I think my generation, we need to apologize to you that we didn't make the changes we need to make, but I'll give you my commitment that I'm going to keep working hard to try to do so. I want to tell you, reach out to me if you need to. Send me a note. I will respond. I'll do my best to have that open door policy that I believe in and want for you. And I want to end by saying, I wish I could have done this in person. But in the new year, as we move forward, I will be doing activities for women in leadership on our campus. This is important to me, and this is an imperative that we do this so that our younger women, so that my 2 grandchildren, my little 17-month-old granddaughter, who I haven't seen in a year, that she does not have to tell these stories that you're telling, that she doesn't have to share the challenges that she's facing, that she can stand tall and have the same opportunities as my grandson has. So that's what I'll work with you and commit to you. We'll do together. We'll keep working on this. Thank you so much. 162 of you came on. That's a lot. You gave me an hour of your time. That's a gift. Time is a gift right now. I appreciate it. Please take care, stay safe, and try to get some rest and relaxation over the holidays. Thank you, Megan, also on behalf of all of us for moderating. You do a great job. I was so glad you agreed to do that today for me. Thank you, everyone. Please take care, be safe. I'm going to go get a Kleenex now. So see you later.